So I've only really gone about a mile or two, but if there's anything that you guys are gonna take away from this video before you click off it, is that I really like this board and I think it's one that I can definitely recommend. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things, and today we're taking a look at the Meepo v2P. I have already covered the Meepo 1.5 in the past, so if you guys want to check out that video, I will leave a link for it right up here. Chances are I'm going to be comparing this thing a lot to that board because, to be honest, a lot of the features are the same. Now, with my experience in the past and the research that I've done, it seems like that a lot of people have a very good experience when dealing with Meepo. The 1.5 that I reviewed, that was a great board coming in at around $400, some pretty decent specs, and that is still a board today that I will recommend to people who ask. I'm hoping that this thing will be relatively the same, so let's jump into some of the specs that have changed. Right off the bat, you guys can already tell that this thing is a lot smaller than that 1.5 that I reviewed. This is built on their new 30-inch deck, so this thing is super portable. It even has a little grab handle in the back here, so this is something that I am kind of stoked about. I really like shorter boards that I can kind of carry around, throw into my car really easily. And there's also a nice kicktail on here, so that should make moving around tight places a lot easier. Aesthetically speaking, this whole thing is blacked out, which I said that I like about the last one, and I still like about this one as well. These are big 90mm Meepo branded wheels, so that should be pretty good for sucking up any kind of cracks and bumps that I might encounter. It looks like they did change the hub motors up just a little bit. I don't know if they just rebranded these caps or what, but I think it's a pretty clean looking design. Dual hub motors, and the specs on this one are a little bit different than the previous generation. Meepo advertises this board with a top speed of 25 miles per hour. It can climb 30% grade hills, and it should last around 11 miles with the standard battery that I have in here. 25 miles per hour is a pretty beefy spec. I think this thing will be able to go 11 miles, but we will just have to turn on my tracking app and see about the rest. One other thing to add is that they did upgrade their remote controller. One of my biggest complaints about the other Meepo board and why I didn't always recommend it to people is because of that cheap kind of knockoff feeling controller that they have. There are a lot of board companies out there using this same remote now, but just from my experience so far, I can already tell you that this is way better and easier to control than the previous controller. It's got a power button, a reverse mode, 4 different power settings on this board specifically, nice scrolly thumb wheel, so that is a big plus in my opinion. Now, I hate to leave the river right now because it is so damn hot out, but let's go out there and see what this thing can do. Alright guys, first time setting the board on the ground. One thing that this board has that the old one had too is the smart turn on feature. You simply roll the back wheels and this board fires right up. Also going to turn the power on the controller. This should be starting in the slowest mode. Now, while I do like the shape of this deck, I haven't even stood on it yet, and if I had to guess, I would say it doesn't have much of a flex. Yeah, definitely not a whole lot of flex. That's kind of what you should expect out of a short board like this. All of the components on the bottom are super close together, obviously, so there really isn't a whole lot of room for the board to move. The trucks seem okay for now. I really don't notice a whole lot of difference there. I also did not bring the included T-tool, so hopefully I do not have to tighten those things up. I'm going to open up my tracking app that you guys ask me about all the time, so if you want to find out which one I use, I will leave a link for it in the description down below. Alright, recording has started. This should hopefully give me the most accurate top speed and distance. I don't know if I'll be able to ride this thing a full 10 miles today because it is so blazing hot out here, but I'll try my best. Kicktail, super nice. I can move this board around like I would a normal skateboard. Now let's see how slow mode is. Oh, it's in reverse. Let's try that again. Bumped it up to mode 2. That's a little better. Right, so I'm in the second power mode now, and it feels really good actually. The acceleration curve seems smooth, the brakes, not the strongest ever, but still feeling pretty damn smooth as well. Now, while this battery is freshly charged, I'm actually gonna stop here and bump this thing all the way up to the top speed mode. That way I can get the best representation of how fast this thing can actually go, indicated by the LEDs on the controller here. Let's see how this thing accelerates. Ooh. Now this is definitely my first short board with this much power that also has a kicktail, so that is definitely something that's taking a little bit of time to get used to. I kind of have my stance all the way out on the nose and tail of this board because as soon as you rock on the throttle when it's in the top power mode, it just wants to kind of kick up and do almost like a wheelie. The trucks are a little loose if you're trying to get this thing up to its top speed, but these nice big wheels and I don't know, kind of flowy feeling of the trucks, it actually does feel really good. Alright, that road right there was paved super smooth, so I actually was at top speed there. I was just holding down full throttle and I think I got it maxed out to a rider with my weight on it. But now we are at the quarter-mile hill. This is where I test a lot of boards. This thing says that it can go up to a 30% grade, and this hill gets pretty close to it once you get close to the top. So, let's see what it can do. No problem at all with that first section. One thing that you might notice with cheaper Chinese boards is that there are like some weird shakes and stuff like that. This Meepo seems very smooth, just like the last one was as well. Man, that was actually pretty damn impressive. So I've only really gone about a mile or two, but if there's anything that you guys are gonna take away from this video before you click off it, is that I really like this board and I think it's one that I can definitely recommend. One thing that I'm noticing now is that since this board is so short and really doesn't have a whole lot of flex, the wheels are sucking up a lot of the bumps, but it is vibrating the crap out of my feet. Again, this is something that you should expect with a short board that doesn't have a whole lot of flex like this, but that's just something to keep in mind that a more traditional longboard would probably be more comfortable on your feet and legs. Now I'm going to go back down the hill that I came up and ride the brakes the whole time because this thing does advertise that it has regen braking. It's obviously going to be hard to tell on the battery power. These things aren't the most accurate thing in the world, but we'll see if I can get any kind of power back. That hill got super steep there and the board was sort of picking up speed a little bit. I mean, I want to say that was at least like a 30% grade. So one thing to keep in mind when going down super steep hills like this is that you should always be ready to foot brake or just find another way of stopping yourself before the board gets too out of control. So far, I'm very impressed with this new iteration of the Meepo board. Now, the only thing left to do is ride this thing until the battery dies or something else comes up. So I'll check back with you guys in a little bit and I'll let you know how it's going. Alright guys, back from my initial ride and test of the Meepo board v2P. I rode this thing till it was completely dead. I did have to push a little bit back through the parking lot, but luckily I made it okay. As it started to die, I definitely noticed the power loss, and then as soon as I noticed it, I started heading right back towards my car. I rode it down to a point where it completely lost power, the controller started blinking, and then that's how I knew I was at the end of my ride. Let's check out the app here for a second. I covered a distance of 8.53 miles and a max speed of 21.78 miles per hour. Now that distance I'm actually very surprised with. I'm in a small town right now and I rode this thing from corner to corner of this town. I was tackling hills that I normally wouldn't do with boards, but this thing did a pretty damn good job at it, especially since it is a more budget style board. If I was a little bit lighter and wasn't tackling such massive hills, I think this thing would definitely get at least to 10 miles, maybe even further than that. And now for the top speed, I believe I did have it topped out on that nice smooth pavement there, and that was about as best as I could do during this test. I think if I tighten up these trucks, I could do a little bit better. But at the same time, 21, almost 22 miles per hour, that is not bad for such a short little board like this. When it's in the top speed mode, you gotta be careful of the kicktail because this thing is gonna really pop up on you, especially for lighter riders. If I weighed like 160 pounds and I was going in a straight line on a flat surface, I could probably get even closer to that 25 mile per hour mark. So specs as advertised, I would say, yeah, Meepo did a pretty good job on that. Also, one more thing that I noticed that they say on their website is they put it right in the description of this board. They say, the Meepo is not waterproof. I think more companies should be doing that because that is a common question that I get asked all the time. They're like, oh, well, can you ride this thing in the rain and splash it through puddles? My answer to that is no, definitely not. Obviously, there's a lot of open components here. The hub motors are pretty much enclosed and they should be okay to keep out dirt and stuff like that, but it's just really not a good idea to take any electric skateboard in any form of water, whether it's splashing through puddles or actually riding in a light rain or drizzle. There are other companies out there who advertise a waterproof ESC, and I just really don't like seeing that. If the board is not 100% waterproof, don't even put the words waterproof on your site at all. I think Meepo did a really good job here saying that this board is not waterproof, and yeah, that's good on them. Two other things that came to mind while riding this board is that this thing is very, very quiet. The hub motors obviously help out a lot with that, but there are some other hub motor boards that tend to rattle around and you can kind of hear the motor noise. This one is very quiet, very stealthy, so they did a good job on that as well. And one of the cons is they have this grab handle here, and this thing almost needs it because it is heavy. It is about 16, maybe like 16 and a half pounds. Don't let its small size fool you. This weighs just as much as the full-length Meepo boards. It is very back heavy with the hub motors back here. The batteries in the front sort of balance it out, but there's definitely a ton of weight towards its tail. So with all of that being said, unfortunately, I'm not in a town where I can long-term test boards like this anymore. But with the reputation that Meepo has had that I've seen on the internet, me owning another Meepo board in the past, I can say that their customer service is pretty damn good and these boards seem to be reliable. I've seen people put hundreds and hundreds of miles on the original Meepo, so because of all those things, I think I can give my stamp of approval on this new Meepo board. All right, is that it? Did I cover everything? I think I covered everything. If you guys have any questions on the Meepo board v2P, please let me know in the comments down below. I will try to answer as many questions as possible. A lot of people always ask me, yo, what board would you recommend? I only have this much money. Or I'm deciding between this board and that board. Which one would you go with? Just like everything else, everything that I show on my channel here, it is a ton of personal preference. This board comes in at maybe a little over $400 as I'm filming this video right now. And if you compare it to other boards in the same price range, this is right there at the top of your list. If you need a board that is small, compact, and portable, I can throw it into my car, carry it around with me into restaurants or shops that I walk into. This is a very good option. If you're basically just taking a board out on the weekend to kind of cruise around town and you don't need the extreme portability, then maybe go with a bigger board. I really don't answer questions like that because there are just too many of them, so just go back through and watch this playlist right here of all the electric skateboards I covered, and I don't lie in my videos, so those are my true impressions of all of these boards. Hopefully that will help some of you guys out. Alright, well, if you are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week, and that's going to be all for today. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.